Enjoying the show? You can help others find it and enjoy it too by giving us a 5-star rating or review. If you feel like reaching out to us with a question or comment, you can send us an email at mywifetherd@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit our website at mywifethedietitian.com, as well as our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Enjoy the show. It's Robin Sander from My Wife the Dietitian, and this is Nutrition Nuggets.
This is Nutrition Nuggets, Rob.
Is it, Sandra?
Yeah. I want to talk about something that I hear from clients quite a bit, and I just want to help people. So weight is not a great indicator of health.
Really? I thought that's like the whole purpose of the scale. Isn't that why we have a scale? So we can weigh ourselves every day and make sure we're healthy?
No.
No? Oh, man.
Yeah. The scale, I don't know. I mean, it's okay once in a while, but to get obsessive about getting on the scale every day is probably not helpful.
No, not at all.
There's a lot of things that affect that number. And when people are working towards a goal and trying to get healthier and maybe improving their eating and having more quality in their food, they might not necessarily see the scale change. And that might be frustrating because there's other things to look at, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And I want to talk about why weight is not a great indicator of health.
It's one of the factors, but it isn't the only, and it definitely isn't the top factor.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many different reasons why weight can fluctuate. So, diet culture and I think just since the beginning of time, we've always used weight and I guess how we look, maybe like what you look like in the mirror, like how big your body is or parts of your body as indicators of health. And sometimes that's true, but it isn't right across the board, but it's become that way of thinking.
Right. And I often say to people, it's actually, the evidence suggests that it's better to be, like, in quotes, fat and fit than skinny and not fit and like hardly any muscle. Mm-hmm. That's when you're frail or you're more likely to break a bone and, suffer the consequences. So it's really actually important to be fit no matter what's going on.
Yeah. I agree.
Right? So, so let's talk about, there's 7 reasons why weight is not a great indicator of health.
All right, let's have them.
So as you mentioned, it doesn't reflect your body composition.
No, exactly. I remember, this is just a quick example. I remember a friend of mine, probably when I was in my 20s, and we were the same size. We were the same height and the same sort of shape, I guess, the same body type, whatever you call that. But he was just, he was like thick. He was dense. Like he was just heavy. Like I'd pick him up and I'm like, dude, you were like a brick. Like he was just so, I don't know, his bone density, I don't know what it was, but his composition of his body was just a lot heavier than mine. Like here we go back to the weight again, but his weight was like 20 pounds more than me, but we looked identical. It was bizarre.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it, right? He could have had higher bone density, maybe bigger brain.
Bigger brain.
No, I'm just joking.
Could have been. Yeah.
Cut that out. I'm totally joking. But the head weighs a lot,
It does.
And just, all parts of our body weigh something. So for people like the diet culture and like getting size 0, it's like, what is 0? That's like nothing. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be nothing. We're something. We're substance, and
I know that shouldn't be the goal.
No, exactly. So
or it shouldn't even be judged. Like someone who's size 16 shouldn't be judged against someone who's a size 6. Like no. It should be irrelevant what the number is.
Like trees. Do trees out there go, oh, I wish I was tall like you, or, oh, I wish I had more limbs,
Yeah, I wish my limbs stuck out further like yours do.
Humans are funny.
They sure
We're always
are.
comparing ourselves and looking in the mirror and like trying to be just perfect and trying to always get to that ideal. And so anyways, back to the weight is not a great indicator of health, and our body composition isn't reflected in the scale. So we've got, our muscle mass, our bone mass, there's so much to it. So that's number one. Number two, also the scale doesn't reflect or doesn't consider our fat distribution. Like, are we apple shape, pear shape? What's our waist to hip ratio? Like, those are more indicative of health and what's going on for our health.
And is that something that can be changed? Probably not, right? I mean, you are what you are as far as your your shape, you said.
Yeah, but you can change you can change those numbers. Yes, you can by, how do you think? You can change your pant size, or if you are feeling that your clothes are getting a little tight.
Well, exercise and nutrition, good diet for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So those are better health indicators, right? Is like, what's going on with your, how well you can
function through the day. Like, I know when I'm not feeling in my best shape. If I haven't worked out for a long time and I'm like huffing and puffing when I climb a flight of stairs, or I walk around the block with a dog and I'm like, oh man, I'm out of breath, or, when you're not feeling your best, that's a better indicator of your health than what the number on the scale says.
Absolutely.
My weight might be completely the same or even less than it was when I was in shape, because muscle weighs.
Yeah.
Right. Muscle, when I work out, I gain weight.
Right. Exactly. Well, that's the thing.
So what does that mean? What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Like if you're judging your weight or judging your health by the weight, I mean, that just throws it right out the window right there. So.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, when you're working out, then the number on the scale might be more, and it might reflect muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually number three, is the fact that the scale doesn't, it just doesn't reflect your fitness level, your activity level, how active you are, your function.
Mm-hmm. I think the purpose of the scale, and this is the way it should be used, and it was probably originally designed for this use, is to create a baseline. So if I weigh, say, 185 pounds most of the time, and then all of a sudden I get on the scale one day and it says 160 pounds, that's kind of a red flag.
That's scary.
Something's going on.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. If I get on the scale and I feel good and nothing really is different in my life, and all of a sudden I'm like 220 pounds, I probably notice that, first of all, but yeah, I mean, something's going on. It's like, whoa, I'm always 185. Now I'm like 30 or 40 pounds heavier or lighter, whichever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, the purpose of the scale. It's not to get on it every day and see, if that cookie you ate last night affected your waistline or your number.
That's right. Exactly. Well, and that's part of it too, is number 4, it doesn't reflect your metabolic health. So what's going on with your blood sugar, with your cholesterol, your blood pressure? Do you have like chronic inflammation happening? Are you managing chronic diseases? So these can really reflect the weight and the scale.
Yeah, a good point.
Yeah. So, water fluid retention, people that have congestive heart failure, or if they have kidney disease, they can have wild fluctuations in their weight, and it's mostly water weight and fluid retention.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why, that's the extreme examples. But weight is not a great indicator of health, because it doesn't show what's going on inside. Like, what if your weight hasn't changed, but your blood sugars are not well controlled, and maybe your cholesterol is elevated, your poor cholesterol, your bad cholesterol, and maybe this is affecting your cardiovascular health. So all these things can play a role.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, it doesn't, number 5, it doesn't reflect your relationship with food and the psychological and social factors around eating and dieting and nutrition, right?
Yeah, can you explain that a bit?
Well, people that maybe have a negative relationship with food, or disordered eating, or maybe they've been on yo-yo diets their whole life, the scale is not helping, because a lot of times getting on the scale can really mess with their brain, like their mindset.
So are you saying that they're getting on the scale every day and they're maintaining their weight, let's say, but that doesn't mean that they're healthy because they have all these other disordered eating issues happening?
Yeah, exactly.
And just the need to get on that scale is an issue in itself.
Exactly. Yeah. Episode 130, we did diet all or nothing thinking. So that's a really good one for people to look back on or listen to.
Mm-hmm.
We also did one on Nutrition Nuggets 65, diet versus lifestyle. So diet, like kind of thinking like, restrictive and limited, and, diet thinking versus changing your lifestyle.
Yeah. Like being on a diet versus just living life and having healthy food as part of that, but not being on a diet that restricts things and limits things and tells you when you can and can't eat and all that kind of thing.
Exactly. Because that's the whole thing with the scale can be very, it can be a tool that's useful, but it also can be a big detriment to people's psychological health.
Oh, for sure.
Like weight stigma can really prevent people from seeking help. It can prevent them from going to the gym or going out for a walk or just being self-conscious of their body.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all part of thinking that weight is actually not a great indicator of health.
Perfect.
Number 6 is your overall health. So we talked about metabolic health, but also like what are you doing in your life? Like how are you sleeping? How's your energy, your mental health, your social connections? Like all of these can represent more about what's going on overall with your health versus what the scale is saying and what your weight is.
Yeah. If someone asks you if you're healthy, you're not going to tell them how much you weigh. Like that's not the answer. Right.
Yeah.
Are you healthy? Yeah, I'm 180. Like that's one small element.
That's funny.
Right? I just thought of that. I mean, but that's how we always equate it. We always think, oh, it's what I weigh. That dictates my health.
It's just part of the whole picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's funny. Actually, we were talking about this in the car the other day. Remember when I said, generally speaking, you never see like someone like an athlete or someone just living their life saying, yeah, I'm watching my weight.
No,
and this is
often.
kind of where this is coming from. Like what we're talking about, weight is not a great indicator of health. For someone to say, and you hear it all the time, especially older generation, I'm watching my weight. No, I better not have that dessert. I'm watching my weight. Can't you just hear that in a restaurant?
Oh, all the time.
I'm watching my weight. Well, why are you watching your weight? Like there's other things you can do with your time, and there's other ways to live in a more joyful way than thinking about the scale every day about like, what am I eating and what am I doing? It can get very obsessive.
Oh, very. Yeah.
So number 7 is weight is not a great indicator of health. And you've heard of BMI, body mass index.
Yeah.
And it's got limitations, right? Because if you think of someone who's a bodybuilder and they do their BMI, it's going to probably indicate that they're morbidly obese.
The thing, yeah, exactly.
Because it's weight relative to the height. And
it just pigeonholes everyone into the same, like if you're 6'3", you need to weigh this much, period. Like there's no like variance in that. So it's like everyone in the world who's 6'3" all has to weigh 175 pounds or whatever it says. Because it is really, because that's how tall I used to be. I've shrunk a little bit, but in around 6'2" or so, it says that I should be like 175 pounds. I'd be like, that's like a stick man. I don't think I would, it doesn't feel healthy to me. And so my weight, when I plug it into the BMI calculator, I'm almost obese. According to the BMI. And I'm like, I'm not obese. I'm sorry. This is out to lunch. It's so crazy.
Yeah, totally. It just gives you a bit of a reflection of what your weight is relative to height. But at the same time, there's different ethnicities that are, some people there's a smaller stature. There's people that like, as we talked about, bodybuilders that have lots of muscle and lean mass. So the scale's going to indicate that they're obese or much overweight. So yeah, all of those things you can really think about when you're thinking about stepping on the scale, and just, is that really a good indicator of your health? And maybe there's other things to consider, like ask yourself, like, as you said, how am I feeling, or how are my clothes fitting? Because, if you feel like maybe the scale isn't changing, but your clothes are fitting better. So maybe you're getting more fit, whatever activity you're doing, and it's improving your overall body composition in terms of your lean mass, increasing your muscle. But as you mentioned, you step on the scale and it's not changing, or it's actually going up. That's not a bad thing, because you're getting fitter. And so, maybe you can go up the stairs without huffing and puffing now. That's a great thing. Are you feeling strong? Are you able to lift the groceries without like a lot of exertion? Can you, do things that you used to be able to do and now you're feeling better? Like, these are better indicators of health. And the same thing with bowels. Like, how are you doing with your digestion, right? Because if that's improving because you're improving your overall diet and your eating and the quality of your food, that can actually improve a lot with your health, but it might not be reflected on the scale.
Mm-hmm. Ask yourself, do I feel 10 years younger than I am, or 10 years older than I am? Because that's maybe a good indication that you're in good physical health if you're able to do things that people that are younger than you are doing and you're keeping up. I don't know if that's just my thinking, but
I think it's a comparative thing too. Like, maybe compare with yourself and like
True.
how things used to be or how things are going, and, make small changes in your own life to improve your own health. And as I mentioned before, look at the sleep quality, look at your stress management, looking at your activity. Like, are you getting regular activity? How are you eating? Are you going through drive-thrus all the time? Are you eating, packaged foods a lot of the time because there's no time to prepare foods? So, these are things to ask yourself. And instead of relying on the scale to tell you how your health is.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I was talking to someone the other day too about, they were asking if we count our macros. And I said, no, we just eat a healthy, balanced diet. And we don't worry about it's the same as a scale. It's the same kind of thing, like if you just have a healthy lifestyle and you're doing all the right things, you're exercising, you're eating well, you're just living a healthy life, then you shouldn't have to worry about quantifying your health with the scale.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like diet culture, and
it's stressful.
Yeah. And, I often say to people, throw away your calorie app and listen to yourself. Mm-hmm. And just like try to, we've done episodes on the hunger scale, and try to be in that middle ground where you're not like getting overly hungry or overly stuffed. You want to be kind of in the middle range, and just, eating 3 meals, 2 snacks a day, thinking about the plate ratio as a good kind of framework in terms of half the plate veggies, quarter starch, quarter protein. That will lead you in the right direction.
There you go. Words from the wise. Well, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for sharing those tips, Sandra. That's always interesting hearing what you have to say. If you want to know more about what we're doing, or just nutrition and health in general, check out our website. It's a plethora of interesting articles there on the blog. You can sign up for a newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter, comes out once a week. It's free to join. The address for our website is mywifethedietitian.com. You can also send us an email while you're there. If you have questions or comments, you just want to say hi, that's all welcome. It is mywifetherd@gmail.com. You can also find us on the web. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Feel free to leave a comment there as well. We love hearing feedback. And you can also rate and review the show. That's super helpful for us. And also super helpful for people looking for a cool show to check out. So do that if you can. And share with friends, share with your family. That's always super helpful as well. So that is it for this week. We will be back next Monday with a full episode. We've got an interview with someone this week. We'll be joined by Selena DeVries, the celiac dietitian. So be sure to join us for that. Until then, Have a great week, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on My Wife the Dietitian. If you like what you heard, don't be shy. Leave us a comment or review, and be sure to share our podcast with your friends. If you'd like to hear more, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media pages for updates, episode trailers, and other odds and ends. For more info and links on what we discussed on today's episode, check the show notes. We'll be back next week with another informative and fun-filled episode.